Sometimes the most profound evil isn't hiding in some dramatic confession or a last-minute revelation. Sometimes it's right there in plain sight, just buried in the mundane, everyday paperwork of life. Tax forms, birth registries, property transfers. And it really takes a certain kind of mind to spot the pattern. I mean, that one sentence, it just perfectly captures the moment. A simple courthouse clerk stumbled upon something so disturbing, it physically stopped him cold. So today, we're going to follow that story, the story of that pattern, and the horrifying truth it ultimately revealed. All right, so our investigation starts with just one man, a very dedicated man, and a discovery that frankly defied all logic, even within the brutal system of American slavery. So this guy, Clark Thomas Hayes, he wasn't your average clerk. He had actually developed his own unique system for organizing records. He would cross-reference birth registries with property sales, essentially creating his own little database. And this system allowed him to track the movement of enslaved people with a precision that was pretty unusual for the time. And it was exactly this system that brought the impossible to life. And what Hayes found was, well, it was this chilling rhythm in the records. Just look at the dates here on this timeline, 1831, 1833, 1835. It's a steady, almost industrial pattern. A new child is born and then sold every 18 to 24 months like clockwork. And every single entry describes an enslaved child with European features, born at Thornhill and sold within a year. This wasn't random. No way. This was deliberate. 21. That was the number of children Hayes initially found through his incredibly painstaking research. 21 kids, all born to enslaved mothers at Thornhill, all described in ways that seemed impossible, and all of them sold away before they were even old enough to speak about where they came from. But here's the thing. Hayes wasn't the only one who felt something was deeply wrong. Across Georgia, other people were bumping into different pieces of the same horrifying puzzle, and they all pointed back to one place, Thornhill. It was like they were all part of this unwilling network of witnesses. So let's shift gears for a second. Imagine you're Rebecca Hartwell. You work at an auction house and you've probably trained yourself to see only numbers, to just detach from the human tragedy happening right in front of you. But then this little boy, Thomas, is brought out. He's 5 years old, pale skin, freckles, and just terrified green eyes. A child who, for all intents and purposes, looks white, but is being sold like he's property. And this is the cold legal rationale that silenced the entire room. When some of the planters started questioning the boy's parentage, the auctioneer just fell back on the law. It didn't matter what the child looked like or who his father might have been. If his mother was enslaved, so was he. And that was the end of it. Okay, so we've got the clerk, we've got the auction house. Now let's bring in a third perspective, a man of science. Dr. Fielding was this young, idealistic doctor from Philadelphia, and he was completely unprepared for what plantation medicine really was. He thought he was there to heal patients. Instead, he was told his job was to fix property. As Dr. Fielding traveled around, he started seeing the pattern himself. A girl named Sarah with blonde hair and blue eyes. A boy, Jacob, with red hair. A set of twins with really fair complexions. All of them on different plantations, miles and miles apart. But when he would quietly ask about where they came from, the answer was always the same. Thornhill. So you have all these records, all these different witnesses, and they're all pointing to this one place. The question is, what was really going on behind the gates of Thornhill Plantation? This right here, this just shows the incredible deception at the heart of it all. From the main road, Thornhill looks like a symbol of Southern grace, a huge columned mansion. But hidden away, out of sight, was this small cottage, which the locals called the Breeding House, and it had barred windows and doors that were locked from the outside. And what was happening inside was a cold, calculated business operation. It was a 4-step process. First, young, healthy, enslaved women were selected. Then they were isolated in that cottage and subjected to forced pregnancies. If a child was born with light skin, it was taken from its mother within days, cared for separately, and then sold for a premium price to a distant plantation, deliberately hiding the pattern. And this is a direct quote from a woman named Ruth, who actually survived 6 years in that cottage. She described how the plantation owner, Edmund Marlo, looked at her children, twins with blonde hair and blue eyes, not as human beings, but as assets. She even said he told her that separating them would increase their value, to maximize his profit. Now, this is probably the most shocking part of the entire story. It isn't just that this happened, it's that it was all perfectly legal. The entire social and legal structure of the South was basically designed to make it possible. It all hinges on this one Latin phrase, partus sequitur ventrum. It means the offspring follows the womb. And under this law, a child's status was determined only by their mothers. It didn't matter one bit who the father was. This wasn't some kind of loophole. It was the foundational principle that allowed the institution of slavery to reproduce itself, generation after generation. You see how this created a completely inescapable legal trap, right? An enslaved woman could not testify against a white person, period. Legally, she was property, which gave her owner absolute control over her. And the status of her children was already decided before they were even born. There was literally no path to justice, because in the eyes of the law, no crime was even being committed. Then, in 1848, the cottage burns to the ground. 4 women died, trapped inside. The ruins clearly showed bars on the windows and that the doors had been bolted from the outside. And yet, the sheriff's official report listed the cause as accidental, and the deaths, they weren't classified as homicide. They were classified as a regrettable loss of property. So after the fire, Edmund Marlo just shuts down his operation. He faces 0 consequences. But the story doesn't end there, not even close. Because while justice completely failed, the documentation, it survived. Fast forward to after the Civil War. Union soldiers are occupying Thornhill, and they find a locked trunk. Inside, Edmund Marlo's private ledgers. They were literally the business records for his breeding program. And they meticulously documented 79 children born in that cottage between 1780 and 1848. 79 human lives just reduced to accounting entries. And that's just Thornhill. Remember Dr. Fielding? His own research, which he kept up for decades, eventually documented 68 similar cases across 9 different plantations. What happened at Thornhill wasn't some isolated horror. It was part of a much wider, systematic practice. So, look, this isn't a story based on rumors or campfire tales. The proof is real. It's sitting in archives and libraries right now. Courthouse ledgers, Marlo's own papers in the National Archives, Dr. Fielding's published research. The evidence is still there for anyone to see. And yet, even with all of this documentation from all of these independent sources, no one was ever held accountable. After the war, the nation just wanted to move on. Books that exposed the system went out of print, the records got filed away, and society as a whole just collectively chose to forget. The meticulous records that were kept by clerks and doctors, and even the perpetrators themselves, they ensure this history can't just be erased. The evidence survived. The truth survived. So the only question left for us is, what do we choose to do with it?